Hello, my name is Dr. Arthur McClinu. I've dedicated my life to providing surgical care to patients with heart disease. My life began in the slums of Soweto in South Africa, where I learned to overcome adversity and illnesses, including the death of my best friend. That's why I want to be a resource for you and your family for consultation related to heart and cardiovascular needs. You can learn more about me by visiting my website, which is at zuluchaskada.com.
Folks, welcome back to the Roland GRIMES, not just sports and entertainment show. As you can see, I have two very distinguished gentlemen with me. To my left is my esteemed co-host, Mr. Self-Empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Wilbert Skipper. Skip, good to see you.
Oh, same here. Happy belated Thanksgiving.
I understand you enjoyed the birthday.
I enjoyed the 53rd birthday. Yeah. Many more to come.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I'll be there when you turn 106.
And before you go forward, I have to congratulate you.
Okay.
10 to 15 pound loss. Let's give Roland a hand. He's rolling with it. He's rolling with it. He said he was going to do it, and he's doing it. All right.
I took my wallet out of my pocket. That was to my right is the CEO of Helms Fitness. This is Helms Fitness Inc. Folks, I got it right this time. This is my main man here, Mr. Eugene Helms. Put your hands together for him.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to do that introduction over again. All right, also to my right is the CEO of Helms Fitness Inc., Mr. Eugene Helms. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
All right. Hey, folks, we're going to take a little turn on this show right now. We're going to get into some sports, and we're going to talk a little bit about, or actually we're going to talk a lot about what's going on in the world of sports today and the positive aspects of it and the not so positive. I'm going to throw this out right now with you guys because you played football, you played basketball, I played tiddlywinks.
No, you played football, and you were a very good football player.
Right. So let's go at it right now. Eugene, when I watch football now, it looks a whole lot different. I watched a play where a guy went across the middle, caught a pass, he took a step, somebody hit him in the snoot, and like 18 flags came out, and I just thought it was a great play. The heck is going on, man?
I tell you, one of the biggest things going on is that they're trying to protect the integrity of the game as far as the players. I mean, right now we have too many players now that are getting injured as far as concussions. So one of the things they're trying to do now is to protect those players so that they will prolong their longevity. And also it's a business too, because who wants to go and pay all that money for ticket sales if you have your star players that are injured?
Okay, but it's football. I mean, you have all of these bodies.
Right.
They're going 100 miles an hour at each other. How do you position yourself so that I hit you with my shoulder or I hit you with my arm instead of hitting you with my head? I mean, you have to look at what you're hitting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And whatever your eyes are focused on, that's where your body's going to go. Now, am I missing something? Please tell me.
No, you're not missing anything at all. It's a very fact as far as these guys are so fast and so strong. And even the hit with Ed Reed, that they fined him and they actually rescinded that. They rescinded his suspension. The guys are going so fast until you have a fraction of a second, whereas everybody's looking on TV and looking at it in slow motion, saying, "Well, he hit a helmet-to-helmet contact." So when referees and when the owners and also the commissioner looks at everything, they have to put that into consideration. That's one of the things that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem from the last game. It's going to be a problem from now on out.
Help me out, man.
Well, now I didn't play football. However, but I do have an opinion. I'm an avid, long-time Redskins fan, so I do love football.
Those skins.
I think what's going to happen is that you're going to have to go back to Pee Wee League, and you're going to have to start mentally preparing football players to hit differently early on. Because where we are right now, you're talking about grown men, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, sometimes 22 years of age, that have been taught to do it no other way. And so now in 1 year or 2 years, because of the concussion issue, you're trying to tell these grown men to stop doing what they've been doing for years. That's hard. That's a very difficult thing to do. So I don't know that my solution is going to happen and change things. What other thing can you do? I mean, as Roland alluded to, I mean, these guys are running fast. And now you're telling me I have to stop before I hit you. I'm trying to knock you out.
Right. I'm
trying to knock you out.
Right.
And you all played football. Now tell me if I'm wrong about this. Folks, listen to this. Tell me if there's not gratification that comes to you, even though you don't want the guy to be hurt, if you knock him out. Is there gratification in football for that?
Yes,
come on, don't sugarcoat it. Is there gratification in knocking somebody out?
No, every time I suited up and every time the ball was snapped, I was looking to knock you out.
Okay, so if you knock me out as a wide receiver, at the end, if they had to bring the card on the field, you're praying for me that my injuries are not bad.
Lifelong.
But then you felt good about knocking me out because, and your players, what did they do? Way to go, Roll. Way to go, Buck. Way to go, babe. And then what did you do? I'm getting ready to stand up, folks. Let me sit down. I'm getting so excited. But what did you do? You stuck your chest out.
Right.
It felt good about it. And your coaches felt good about it.
But all I understood is that's the game. I mean, it's like boxing, and if you go in the boxing ring, you expect somebody to get hit. You expect somebody to draw. I mean, what? Well, I mean, so that's the game. I mean,
well, I'll tell you,
why is it so much different now?
The reason why is because of so many players getting injured. That's one of the main reasons. But the other thing too, and the officials and also the commissioner has not really talked about this, is that you could be a defender going for a tackle and you're low.
Right.
And that receiver or that running back goes low, now your helmet is going to hit his helmet. Or you see some of the games now, since they don't want to get fined, they end up going low. And now their neck is exposed where they can have serious neck injuries trying to make a tackle.
You know, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, the way you protect the players is with the equipment. The mere fact that you have helmet-to-helmet contact is because you'd rather have that than head-to-head.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so the reason why you have the shoulder pads and the hip pads, etc., is so that you can absorb the blows. The fact of the matter is, this is one of those games. The way that I see it, this is one of those games where no matter how much you penalize someone, because all we're really doing is, not saying all we're doing, but we are penalizing people.
Right.
We can continue to penalize, but the fact of the matter is, if you're running a football and I have to stop you, I don't have a whole lot of time to think about how to position my body to stop you. My objective, my goal, my job is to stop you.
Exactly.
So I have to make contact with whatever you give me to stop you. Now, if you slide, then I'm going to make contact with your lower body. Right. If you drop your head, now as a running back, I got the ball. My job was to boom, lower my head. Yeah. So I'm going to position my head towards you first, because I can't run a football sideways and I can't turn and run it backwards. Now, I'm not saying anything about, protecting the players. I think the reality of it is, as I see it, is that it's a dangerous game, and you play the game with a degree of reckless abandon, and if you don't, you actually can get yourself hurt as much trying to protect yourself.
Exactly.
When I got hurt, it was me trying to protect myself.
Well, what about the repositioning of the offensive play? I mean, have y'all thought about that?
No.
The reposition of the offensive play. I'm coming across the middle, and I reposition myself, and you're already aiming to hit me where it's going to be safe, and I reposition myself, and you connect with me, and then I get penalized because it's helmet to helmet.
Look, I don't have to worry about it, because quite frankly, if you reposition yourself, you're not going to catch the ball. But the fact of the matter is, you're concentrating on protecting the football as a runner, and you're concentrating on catching the ball as a receiver.
Yeah.
You trying to catch the ball, you represent. Back in my day, they called it, alligator arms, or they called it turning away from contact. Yeah. So it was something negative. The fact of the matter is, the ball is coming here and Eugene is coming there. I have to do this to go get the ball.
That's your job.
Yeah.
That's my responsibility.
Well, again, okay. So let me throw another question out to you all. I know we're going to go to break, but let me see if I can get this in. You all play football,
right?
Football's a tough sport. Right. It's a little different from basketball, even though basketball can be physical, but it's a tough sport.
Football is a collision sport.
It's a collision sport.
It's like two cars slamming into each other.
So the worst thing that you want to be labeled as being as a football player is weak
or
soft.
Or soft, that's correct.
So mentally, if that's not where you want to be, how do you redirect your mental focus to tell yourself that I need to be weak and hit this guy so I won't?
You are or you're not.
You can sit there and tell me that all day. The fact of the matter is, the majority of football players are not repositioning their focus.
Yeah.
We can sit here all day and say, hey, you know, it's making a big impact. And so the fact of the matter is, when the ball is snapped, you can't sit around and worry about, okay, how do I position my body so I don't get a penalty? How do I do this so I don't get hurt? How does he do this so I don't hurt him? How does he do this so I don't hurt him? The fact of the matter is, I'm thinking about, okay, at the snap of the ball, I'm supposed to come off this guard's behind. I'm supposed to, you know, throw my inside shoulder in, and I'm supposed to wreak havoc whatever shows up. Now, the fact of the matter is, whatever shows up, the responsibility that I have is to go blow it up. How I blow it up is how I blow it. Players aren't sitting around thinking about that. Now, you know, they say you hit them in the pocketbook. Well, quite frankly, I'll be honest with you. You know, at the rate that we're going within 15 to 20 years, the game is going to be extinct. Now,
absolutely.
Now, you tell me if you see it any differently than that right now, because I hope you do.
I really don't see it differently at all. I mean, that's one of the things that even the commentators, the players are saying as far as how they have to actually reposition themselves to play football. And anytime you start thinking on that field, that's when you start getting
that's when you start getting hurt.
You cannot think on that field because the guys are going too fast.
All right, look, we're going to take a station break right now. We'll be back shortly with Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. Sit tight. We're going to get into it a little bit more. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back to the Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Roland Bubba Grimes, Eugene Helms, Wilbur Skipper. This is what happened as far as I understand it. There are two particular industries that are real involved right now in football: the medical industry and the legal industry. and the way I looked at it is, the medical industry is going to drive the quote-unquote safety of the players, but it's also going to change the game. Now what happens is, every time someone gets hurt, or every time someone has problems 10, 15 years after they finish playing, then the legal community is going to come in, and now come the lawsuits. The medical diagnoses and the lawsuits are going to end this game. Now, NFL has put some things in place, great. But the real shift is going to come when us former college players start filing those lawsuits against the universities and against the NCAA. Because the pain that I have in my neck and in my head came from football. So when those lawsuits start getting filed, that's when you're going to see this game disappear. I hope I'm wrong. Tell me I am.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And of course, you and Eugene, you guys are speaking from past experiences. So you guys are more closer to that than from a real standpoint as far as playing the game. You know, I'm the outsider looking in, but at the same time, I have my own opinion about it. I mean, I agree with you 110%. I think the way football is shaping up right now, there's going to be a lot of changes, and I think it's going to take away from the real football. Football as we knew football many years ago in the 50s to 40s, it migrated and came all the way up to the 2000s, is going to be changed. And I think what's going to happen is that's going to change the mindset of football players starting in high school, in college, and then going into the pros, because I just don't see how you can change that. You all play football. There's one term that I'm going to use that I'm going back to high school. Okay. And when I say this term, when I listen to this term or think about this term, I think about collision, the nutcracker. Does that ring a bell? What happened with the nutcracker?
Well,
I mean, you all play football, right?
I mean, I don't know if programs are still doing the nutcracker. Nutcracker was, and it was done in different ways in different programs. And basically, you had two guys on one side of the cone, two guys on another side of the cone, a third guy holding the ball, and a third guy standing up. And what happens is, within 7 or 8 yards of each other, when the whistle blows, the guy with the ball runs, the two guys that block each other, and the third guy runs full speed into the guy with the ball. Right. Now, it simulates basically any isolation play.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And if you do not condition the human being for those collisions, how the heck do you expect them to play the game?
And that's the thing. You have to do that. What the problem that we're having now, especially on the pro level and the college level, is that they're trying to protect the players so much until you're not having those type of collisions throughout the course of practice. Yeah. So now you have so many guys that's
What's
getting
wrong
injured.
with the collisions? I mean, what is wrong with the collisions? I'm trying to understand.
Well,
and I'm sure there is something wrong. I'm just not aware of what it is. What is wrong with the collisions?
The point that's happening is that when you have key players, because you want to conserve those guys on the course of a 10-game season in high school, 12, 13-game season for college, and 16 plus for the NFL, you got to conserve these players. So therefore, you're going to try to make sure that you don't have these players hurt, because now it gets to the point of money. Mm-hmm. And when it gets to the point of money, that changes the whole entire concept. You look at the professional players, is that why don't you hit the quarterbacks? And the quarterbacks need to get hit like anyone else. But if you hit a quarterback in the NFL, what happens? You will get fined, or you would get released from that team.
Because the marquee players drive the market.
They drive the market, and that's money. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing they got to look at is money. It's not about this. It's all about the money, the dollars and cents, because if you get those guys hurt, and it's a $40 million contract that you had to pay, you have to make sure that player is out there playing. So not there sitting beside the sideline looking at you.
Okay, so because of the economic factor involved with it, are we going to be able to adjust and adapt this game well enough to be able to continue to play the game with this perception in mind that it's affecting the pocketbook?
I don't think so. I think confusion is written all over this thing. I don't think there's anybody out here watching our show today or in our live audience that could say anything contrary to what we've been talking about on the show that would make sense to make me think any different. Absolutely not. It's totally confusing.
I'm watching the college play. I see a guy make a great play, great hit, great tackle on the guy. We're all excited. He gets up and there's a flag.
Yeah, right.
And I go, what?
Yeah.
So it does something to me as a player, because I'm thinking and projecting myself as I'm watching it, the way that I would apply, the way I would approach it. And then when you're talking about doing it, it's one thing when you watch slow motion on the camera. Oh, that's illegal. Hit on.
Exactly.
But when it's happening full speed, well, I mean, it's like if you swung at me right now, on TV it looks like, oh, he came with the right, he didn't block it. Well, the fact of the matter is, by the time I saw it, I was already looking the other way.
It's too late.
It's too late.
Exactly.
Well, what about from the fans' perspective?
What
about from the fans'
let's
perspective?
talk about
I mean, there are fans that go to games, they spend money, they get skybox suites, they align themselves.
Are they complaining about it?
They're not complaining about it as much. So now you talk about the economic issue. Mm-hmm. So now you're toying with potential fans saying, well, I don't want to go to games anymore. I don't want to watch football no more, because you're taking away from the game. Football as football that I knew from way back, that's the football that I like. Okay, I remember one play that went viral. I can't remember the university, but a kid went across the middle, got hit, and when he got hit, he tried to stand up, and then he vomited on the field. That went viral. That hit YouTube. It had millions of views, and people were liking it. Mm-hmm. So you can't sit up here and tell me that there's not an aspect of real football that the fans don't want to see.
I mean,
they want to see that.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, football sort of replaced some of what we know through history. Is gladiators, the Lions Den, the Roman Coliseum.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, football stadiums are built essentially a prototype of the Roman Coliseum.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it is what it is. Now, the fact that it became a business, hey, that was someone's vision 50, 60, 70 years ago to turn it into a profitable endeavor. Hey, more power to it.
Yeah.
Now, the fact of the matter is, as you move forward with this thing, it's not even so much just, from my standpoint, it's not even just so much from the business standpoint of it, fellas, but, without discounting that. But what happens now is, when you think about it as a corporate entity in terms of the NFL or college, high school pee-wee, look, in the last 25 years, hundreds of major corporations went out of business.
Yeah, right.
Corporations that generated more revenue than the NFL. Mm-hmm. In the last 25 years, new corporations were built that are now multi-billion-dollar corporations that didn't even exist 25 years ago. So the fact of the matter is, football is a business and it can go away.
Absolutely.
Now, once it goes away, what replaces it? What are we going to do with that aggression?
Absolutely nothing. Exactly.
Nothing replaces.
Absolutely nothing.
So it's one of those games. So it's one of those games that,
well,
it's just a mainstay in our culture.
It's a mainstay. The other thing too, you got to realize is that it's a multi-billion-dollar business. So what they're going to do is that they're going to find a way of having the game still go on.
So some modification of the game.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another thing to look at too is that, and players say this all the time, they don't ask you to play football.
It's optional.
It's optional.
Right.
So players that understand it, keep that in the forefront is that if you choose to play this game, you know the consequences of what happened with this game, because any down can be your last. And you understand that.
Right.
So you can't go out there half-heartedly, because that's when you would get injured. But from a business standpoint, it's going to continue to market, regardless, because people like football.
Well, if I can jump in for a second, I think Eugene Helms, and let me look into the camera on this one. I think Eugene Helms may have the answer, and it is modification. There's going to have to be a lot of modifying that's going to have to take place, and then going back to the Pee Wee League, they're going to have to buy into the modification, which is going to have to start with kids at 4 and 5 years of age, coming all the way up through high school, college, and then the pros.
Right.
Eugene Helms, you heard it right here on the Rolling Grounds, Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. Modification.
Man, good luck with that, man. I can't
believe you discounted what I just said.
Dude, I'm not discounting. I said good luck with it.
I love you, Roland. You are a good guy, and we've been doing this for a while, but I just cannot believe you just discounted it.
No, I'm saying good luck with it. Look,
will you tell the folks out there that you're not discounting it so they won't?
Folks, I will never discount anything that Mr. Self-Empowerment, Wilbur Skipper says, my big brother from another mother and another habit, but hope. Look, we're going to take a break right there. We'll take a pause for the calls. We'll be back shortly with the Rolling Grimes Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. Sit tight. Welcome back to the Rolling Grimes Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. Hey guys, I'm gonna give you a real scenario.
Okay.
All right. Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. I run a bootleg. Quarterback throws the ball to me. I turn up the field. I see the goal line. I see a safety. Right now we're down 21-0. I want to send a statement. So instead of running toward the goal line, I run toward the safety. Full speed. Crowd jumps up. Oh my goodness. I couldn't get up.
After the hit?
I couldn't get up. I couldn't feel anything from my navel to my neck. All right? Now, after Nebraska danced on me, celebrated, etc., the guy that hit me ran behind the bench and he threw up. Now, I came out of the game, waited until I could get the feeling back in my arms.
To get back in?
No, I started the second half and played the entire game. Now, in today's football, you get that kind of impact. You have a stinger. You have those stingers, because they were in both arms. I wouldn't be able to play for another 3 weeks. Right or wrong?
Well, you are right, because first thing they're going to do is have you go to the medical doctors and perform a series of tests. And even when they perform a series of tests, they're going to have to make sure you pass those tests before you get on the field. So you are right. And if they feel as though that you're not able to move on your own cognizance, then they're going to take.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I had numbness in my thumbs for 3 years.
Wow.
I mean, so it is what it is. I had the tingling and the numbness in my thumbs for 3 years, and they put me in traction for 2 years. Before practice for 2 years. You know, the weight around the saddle around my head, the weight bearing to pull my neck to stretch my vertebrae so that it would take the pressure off the disc, because with the hit, the vertebrae compacts, hits the disc pops, and then hits the nerves, and that's the problem. So they had to basically stretch me out. Now, There are people out there who listen and say, oh, I'll never let my kid play football. It didn't mean a thing to me at that time. I could have cared less. I was a scholarship football player, playing Division I football, and all I cared about was the next week to play University of Maryland. Now, when I was growing up, that was considered noble. Now it's considered foolish. Are parents telling you now, I don't want my kid to play football? I'm hearing it everywhere I go. In the urban environment now, basketball is all that's happening now because the gym is climate control. Right. It's climate control. When the sisters do their hair, they don't have to worry about the bees, they don't have to worry about the wind, they don't have to worry about. Now, having said that, these dome stadiums. Now, you all know about the NFL strike we just went through. Now, this is what I figure is going to happen. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. The NFL owners wanted to recover about $1 billion a year from the players. This is part of what they were debating. Doing it right. You with me? Okay. Now, do you have any idea how much the stadium costs, Dallas, Texas?
$1.2 billion.
Exactly. So now, if the owners are able to get $1 billion back from the players every year, how long would it take for the NFL owners to create about 10 or 11 of these stadiums? About a decade, right? Well, help me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Help me if I'm not making any sense. Manny Pacquiao goes in and he fights in the brand new Dallas, Texas stadium. 100,000 people. The cost of Manny Pacquiao and his opponent combined, maybe $10 million. The cost of an NFL backfield is going to be $30 million. So now, when you can host the NCAA championship, you can host rodeos, you have a dome stadium, you can do concerts, you can do boxing matches, you can do basketball all day long. What do you need football for? So, from my standpoint, once you build the dome stadiums, because the cost of football is so high to pay the players, when you can have a boxing match every week, or you can have a basketball game, because college basketball game, people will pay $200 for a ticket to see, Kentucky Wildcats play the Duke Blue Devils, so you can stage that game every Monday night. Now, the other thing about it is, if you have a football stadium, you can only host 10 games a year, 2 preseason and 8 regular season games. Well, you have a dome stadium, you can host a basketball game every 3 days.
Well, let me ask you all a question, since you brought it up, because that's a great point.
It is a great point.
Does that mean that the owners like Jerry Jones are getting it? And they're looking
I think they got it.
And they're looking at the future?
I think they
and the possibilities that football could become obsolete?
No, I'm looking at it saying that
they're going to
they
still can make money?
That they're in a position to make football obsolete.
They are.
They're in a position to make football obsolete.
Okay, so here's what's probably going to happen.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't mean to talk. Here's what I think is going to happen, since you brought the point up. Right now, with that point being made, the owners, because it's a close fraternity, right? A close-knitted group, they're probably going to get together and say, well, let's make sure we continue to do what we're doing in football until every owner gets a dome stadium.
Yeah, well,
so
they're going to do it after they see the show.
So they can benefit from the same thing.
If they wasn't thinking
right? I mean, does that make sense?
Right.
You've been in the game long enough. This is where some owners are going. Jerry Jones is a good example. We don't have a dome stadium here to watch the Redskins. But there's talks about a new stadium possibly being built. Will that be a dome stadium?
Of course.
Okay. So if that's the case, then folks, what you're probably seeing is an evolution taking place right now. That's what you're probably seeing.
Now, if that's the case, go ahead.
Now, the other thing to look at too is that your two richest owners is the Washington Redskins and of course the Dallas Cowboys. Now you got to look at all these other small markets. That's not really generating all the money, such as the Jerry Jones and Snyder,
and
Dan Snyder.
Okay.
So when you look at other teams, such as the Oakland Raiders, who they love, who they love their football team, they're not heavily watched like those main teams like the Giants, Cowboys, Packers.
Smaller markets.
Right. Smaller markets. The only team that has a smaller market, if you look at it, is the Green Bay Packers, but because of their legacy, That's the reason why they're so big. So that's the other thing to look at too, is that if we do this, all the other teams are going to be able to withstand that, and that's one of the reasons why they have a cap.
Well,
because if you don't have a cap, then you can.
Okay, so part of the adjustment to it is to create the cap, control the rookie contracts. Now you can keep the salaries down, and you can keep the game going.
Exactly.
Because, quite frankly, the majority of football players are out of football within 4 to 5 years in the NFL. So if you wait 3 years before you have to pay the rookie their big money, 80% of them will be gone by the time.
You know, the other thing too is this: not only the rookies. Look at your 3 and 4 year veterans, because in the NFL, after 4 years, you know, that's playing, you're going to have at least, you're going to pay the players at least $750,000 minimum. So what happens is that the owners, the coaches look at it and say, well, do we actually want to market this guy or pay this player for us to give him $750,000 minimum? Because normally, if you look at a lot of players that are not
3 or 4 years,
at 3 or 4 years, the minimum salary.
you get rid of them.
So you get rid of them. So the only way you can be able to stay there unless you're an impact player that they feel as though that you're going to get something, or they can get something from you as far as the revenue is concerned.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you mention that, because one of my teammates in college, a guy named Robert Drummond, he was Doug Flutie's main receiver, if I have it correct, when Doug was making those moves with the Toronto Argonauts, and really blowing his program sky high and created a market for himself in the NFL.
Exactly.
Well, Doug Flutie came back to the NFL and he played, I think, at least a couple of years with the NFL team, right? Now, I had a conversation with Robert Drummond. I said, look, you're a 6'3", 250-pound wide receiver. You are a tight end, wide receiver, tailback and fullback all in one. Why isn't the NFL team bringing you back? You helped win 3 of those Grey Cups. Why isn't the NFL team bringing you back? Well, he was drafted initially by the Philadelphia Eagles. He was released, I think, 3 years into it. I believe, if I recall correctly, he said, man, if they bring me back and I get that 4th year, now I'm eligible for a pension. So the fact of the matter is, they're not bringing me back. So now we sit here as consumers, and we sit here as educators and coaches, and we look at this game and we think that these guys have it made. They don't have it made, do they?
No, they don't. And the thing about what that people gotta understand is that the owners are going to get paid regardless. Whether you come in there or not, the tickets have already been sold.
Right. And the revenue is still flowing from the concession stands and a whole lot of other stuff that's there.
And they get majority of their money off of, like you said, the concession stand. So when you look at those aspects, they can care less whether not they're going to sign this player or not, because they're going to get somebody else anyway.
Well, I know this, man. I was watching the tape, of highlights of a Redskin game from 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm telling you, 85% of the guys on the team now were not there 4 or 5 years ago.
No.
I mean, just in the running back position alone, they've had turnover so much in the last 4 years. There's not one running back that's on the team now that was even in the pros 3 years ago.
I'm going to give you one case in point. I was looking at the Redskins and Cowboys game. At the time when the St. Louis Rams won the Super Bowl, when they was the greatest show on turf, right? There's only one player right now that's still playing from that Super Bowl, and that's Lemon Fletcher. Torrey Holt is gone. Isaac Keem is gone. Kurt Warner's gone. Marshall Faulk is gone. Dick Vermeil is not coaching no more. So you look at it, it's a high turnover. So anytime you have a guy that's 12, 13, 14 years in the league that's playing.
That's very, very long.
And especially staying at one place, no matter what sport you're playing. So they had to think a lot about you, and also it's ticket sales too.
All right, we're going to extend this segment a little bit longer. Let me ask you this: how does a pro football player extend his longevity? I mean, other than just a miracle to me, how do you play 15 or so years?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind to me is discipline in regards to your body, staying in shape. You know, not doing some of the things that will be detrimental to your potential longevity in the league. I mean, during the offseason.
But just playing football is potential to your longevity in the league.
Well, it is, but I mean, okay, for an example.
You're talking about off the field.
Yeah, off the field. So the football season's over, you have your exit visit, you know, with your coaches, and then now you have your wife, your family, your kids, and you can go off and do whatever you want to do. Well, that's not really the time if you want a long-term career in the NFL to just go and party like you've never partied before and not take care of your body and not work out in the off-season and not prepare yourself mentally and physically to come back and do it all over again.
Right.
Now, the discipline aspect of it to me is very, very important. And it's huge because there are some players that do that. Why is it that some players come back in camp and the coaches look at them and they evaluate them and say they're out of shape?
Right.
Why is that? Well, that player potentially wasn't disciplined enough during the offseason to do what they need to do. So, for me, the one word, discipline.
Exactly. You know, and I had to piggyback as far as what Skip said, because when they do those conditioning tests, prior to those players coming in there, unless you're a big name player who we have money locked in there, if you don't pass those conditioning tests, they'll let you go. It's too many guys out here.
Yeah, remember when Albert Haynes was they kept trying to hold on to him after the conditioning test, and then finally they just said, all right, you passed, and he played, and 6 months later, 6 games later, he was gone.
But they couldn't let him go instantly because of that money.
Because of the money.
Now, if it wasn't because of the money, Albert Haynes would have been gone. As soon as he went stepped on that field, and he did not pass that conditioning test.
Well, and then the other thing, Roland and Eugene, if I could throw this in, because I think this makes sense too. There's a difference between being motivated by your passion versus being motivated by the money. There's two different things.
Right.
Now, a lot of players are motivated by the money, and you would think that because they're motivated by the money, they would do what they need to do athletically to keep themselves in a position to continue to be motivated by the money and make it work. But in some instances, that doesn't work. So that's where the passion aspect comes in. If you're not passionate about playing football, you may lose some of that, which will take away from the longevity that you could possibly have in the league. I hope I'm making sense, folks.
Yeah, unless I'm missing something. If you're not passionate about football, 90% of the time you're not even going to make the team, because the bottom line is you have to go thrust your body into people 100 miles an hour. And if you don't have the passion for it, it's real easy to hesitate, to not pull that trigger. And as soon as you do that, you're done.
Well, let me give you one player that I think would represent what I just said, Jerry Rice.
Exactly.
One player. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you all I know everything about football, but I did follow Jerry Rice's career. What did Jerry Rice do in the offseason? Work. It got to the point that I think they did a story on the 360. And I watched part of it. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you all that if I was a football player, I would have had that much discipline to do what he did. But he did it.
Exactly.
And how many years did he play in the league? You guys know. How many years? I don't remember. 16, 17 years? And he went down as what? One of the best wide receivers to ever play the game?
28 touchdowns. The other thing, too,
the other half of that is he was in a system that helped him get there. He was in the West Coast system. They caught the ball. He had 4 or 5 other guys, Roger Craig, Tom Rathman, John Taylor. I can't remember who the tight end was. So you couldn't even double anybody when he was playing.
But
so he was I'm not talking about his body.
No,
but I'm talking about the longevity of the career. It's not just your physical, it's also being kept by a team that long.
But see, the other thing that y'all had to realize too is that during that time, you had to really work for your money.
Yeah.
See, now it's changed now, because you got the players now doesn't have to necessarily work for their money. So once they get that $30, $40, $50 million contract up front, what incentives do you have? Well, it's just like I go to high school players and college players. If you might have a full scholarship, what incentive do you have now? The incentive you're supposed to have is to win, but if you don't win, do most of the players
if you can't find this, they have to care. If you don't have this, football is not like any other game.
Right.
If you don't have this, it's not like any other game.
But it should be.
It's not like any other game.
I understand that.
And the reason why it's not like any other game is because you put yourself in harm's way every snap of the ball.
Right.
If you don't have the incentive to go do this, whatever that incentive is, it's an easy game to walk away from, unless you really want to play. And I can't think of anybody in my immediate circle where the game ended and they said, man, you know what, it was time for the game to end. Everybody I talked to was like, man, the game ended long before I thought it should have ended.
Well, one thing that Eugene said, and I might be getting off a little bit of this, so y'all just be patient with me on this, but Eugene talked about the contracts. I think that's a big issue. I think, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine off the records about the contracts. If Wilbur Skipper is signed to a 4-year deal and I make $500,000 a year. Roland Grimes is signed to a 10-year deal. He makes $100 million a year. I mean, $100 million over the term of his contract. And Eugene Helms is signed to a $50 million contract over 5 years. At that point, it should stop. And I think one of the things that happen with a lot of players is the fact they're given too much power because of their contracts. And I think that disrupts a lot of stuff that happens as well. Now, I said I might be getting a little off on this, but I want to throw this in because he brought up the contract issue. When you start practicing from day one, right, contracts should be thrown out the window. I want to use the D word, but I'm not going to use that. It should be thrown out the window. Right. If I make $500,000 a year, Roland makes $4 million a year, you make $6 million a year, that should be done with. We should be equal and held accountable for what we need to go out and do on the field.
And you know what, Skip? And I agree with you, but from the standpoint is that when you bring those players in, the owners, the coaches are pressured by the owners saying that we paid X number of dollars to this guy, so now you got to get these players reps. This is what happened.
Well, you can get them reps though.
But see, this is what happens though. Most of the players who actually get released, and you wonder why they got released, is because now it comes down to a point of money. All you have a $500,000 contract.
This is what happened with Chris Cooley earlier this year.
Exactly. Now you got to look
all
at
the passion and incentive in the world.
Exactly.
Doesn't want to put on any other jersey but the Redskins jersey. Man, you got to go.
And then and the other thing too that most people don't realize is that now you have incentives. Let's say you have incentives where if you have X number of catches, X number of tackles, you're going to get a new contract. Now you have to make sure that your coaches are in line with you for you to get those incentives. If you don't get those incentives, then therefore it's going to cut you down as far as your salary.
Okay, so
it's a tricky situation as far as everything.
So for those of you out there who don't know, you look at an NFL contract, you say incentive, you have money that comes in to some contracts for every yard that you get. I remember talking to Art Baker, and Art Baker played for the Buffalo Bills, and he said, I think he told me something, I might be wrong, but he said, hey, they paid me $3 for every yard on top of my contract for every yard that I got. So you're talking about sacks. Now here I am, I'm upset with the coach because the coach is not blitzing me enough because I make an extra $10,000 every time I get a sack. So now what happens is you have this sort of disjointed, disconnected industry governed by these coaches. And everybody has a different interest, different self-interest in this pot. So by its very nature, it's very difficult for this thing to sustain itself over time because what works good for him as a coach might be detrimental to you and your contract as a player. Now, let's talk about, let me share with you the reality of this from this standpoint in terms of a player. I remember sitting with a guy who played for the Oakland Raiders, San Diego Chargers, and the guy was making $275,000 a year at the time. He wanted to renegotiate his contract, I believe, to $675,000. Now, when we talk about NFL money, you say $675,000 a year, that doesn't sound like a lot of money when they're on TV talking about millions and millions of dollars. But the fact of the matter,
about that too.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is, the LA Rams offered him a contract, I believe, for $475,000. He rejected the contract, held out, whatever. At some point, the Los Angeles Rams released him. His very next job was with a shoe company making $30,000 a year. So he went from $275 to $475 down to $35. Now, can you only imagine when 2 or 3 years before Christmas, and he told his wife, hey, take your credit card, here's your limit, and your limit is in the 4 or 5 digits.
Right.
And now it's Christmas, and you know what, we're packing because we have to move now because I'm not making enough money to keep this going.
Exactly.
So we're talking about the players, and we're talking about the contracts of the players. When in reality, the most vulnerable person in the entire industry is the player.
Right.
The coaches are going to get paid. The trainers are going to get paid. Everybody's going to get paid whether they perform or not.
Right.
The players may get paid if they perform, and you know what? Players may perform and still get cut because of other issues related to the team, the cap, what have you. Now, having said that, Are we expecting too much from the players in terms of how they should conduct themselves as professionals? Are we expecting too much from them and saying that this is how they should function and how they should operate? When, quite frankly, within a twinkling of an eye, they're done, either because of injury or somebody says, hey man, we don't need you anymore. I knew a guy who went to the stadium to suit up for the game, quit his job, practiced all week, went to the stadium to suit up for the game, and they didn't have a locker for him. Nope. They didn't have a jersey for him. Yeah. So he had to put on street clothes and he went home. Now that $37,000 check or whatever he's supposed to pick up that day, called his people, told them, hey man, this is what we're gonna be able to do. No check.
Well, that's why.
Now, wouldn't you concentrate on getting yours?
Absolutely, I would. But at the same time, and maybe this could be another show that we could do, I think we need to talk about the business aspect of the players and the mindset that they need to have coming into the professional ranks, especially being that the longevity for players is short. So if you get 2 or 3 years in the league and you're frugal with your money, and you do the right thing with your money, despite how much you're being paid, in the event that something happens, like what you just said, you're better off then than you would be if you don't do that. The agents get 10%, whatever percentage they get. 10%. You got taxes on top of that. Okay, so what about teaching the players how to, okay, if you have 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years, you don't make the pension year, so you can get your pension, be more frugal with your money, take care of your money, do some other stuff that has nothing to do with the coaches. Has nothing to do with the owners. It has to do with what you do with your money to set you up for a better future. What about that?
Well, the question is, how do you plan for the money to set up for the future when you don't know if there's going to be a future past next week?
Well, no. You know what? This is what you do. Okay, I always say that everybody should be the best they can be every day and live life to the fullest every day. Do that every day. So if I don't know tomorrow whether or not I'm going to be cut and I did the right thing when I was the best that I could do for the day before, I'm still better off than I would be if I didn't do that. Longevity is not promised. So if it's 3 games, 6 games a year, you still can put that in place. You still would be better off than you would be if you just let the element of surprise just catch you and you're, as we used to say, holding nothing. And also, so you can prepare for that. You can prepare for 1 day at a time.
Exactly. And the other thing you got to realize too is that once you come inside the league, you already know your NFL sense will not for long. You need to start, as soon as you get your contract, to start investing.
Absolutely.
What happens is that a lot of these players fail to invest.
A lot of players invest and investments go belly up.
They go
You talk to Antoine Walker basketball.
Yeah.
You talk to Allen Iverson basketball. You talk to 90% of the guys they invested in the most secure thing in the world, real estate. And then they invested in the next best thing, commercial real estate, and then they invested in things that people are going to buy, whether it's spinner rims or whether it's cars. And guess what happened to those investments? Man, those jokers didn't make bad investments. The investments went bad.
But let me ask you this, though. The other thing, too, that you didn't mention is that a lot of those players that you was talking about had huge entourages that you paid money for them to go to.
And you do not have to have that.
No, but that's okay. No. If you have an entourage, that's fine. If you spend,
if that's what you want to do.
No, what I'm saying to you, if you spend, you guys are, we're in each other's entourage. I'm being called a spade a spade.
Yeah, but guess what? We can go out and spend a couple $100s and eat good and
if we had the means, we'd go spend several $1,000.
Yeah, we could
and eat good.
Right, we could. But the difference is with us right now, the 3 of us, we're a lot more mature than a lot of those guys that are coming into. Well,
you are.
Roland is a lot more mature. Roland's just saying that.
I'm not.
He's just saying that.
Roland, no. Call spade a spade. Look. If I had it right now, I'd be flying all over the world, following George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars at every concert, taking out with me, spending money.
But when you come back home, you would have some money in the bank.
All I'm saying, and that's the point.
Yeah.
These guys spent money with their entourage. They spent money running and funding. They also put a percentage of their money in investments.
Yeah.
The investments went bad.
Well, let me ask you a question. How many investments do you have to continuously make that go bad before you stop and you do something else? Listen, when we were growing up, our parents, and I'm going way back. You know what?
How do you
I would much rather.
Now, I'm going to say this as if I'm authority on this, but this is what I heard. Bruce Clark, All-Pro, 15 years in NFL or whatever, New Orleans Saints, Penn State linebacker, $17 million or whatever it was in the bank. Guess what happened to the bank?
They bailed it out.
Guess how much he got back?
How much?
FDIC. $100,000.
Okay, well then hold up. Oh,
so I'm just saying, how do you invest $17 million?
Okay, so here.
If you don't own the company and you don't own the material, how do you invest? Where do you put $17 million?
You just said the answer too. If you don't invest in the company. And see,
how you gonna run a company while you playing ball?
No. See, this is the thing. When before they go into
no,
NFL,
don't give me this theory. Don't give me this theory. Don't give me this theory. They talk to me. Right, and they talk to me. And they told me what to do. Exactly. And all the guys did it, and they ended up belly up.
Well, but you don't have to do that.
All the guys haven't done that.
Look, the bottom line is
this. Talk to me.
No, I want to talk to you and the camera. I want you all to feel my pain on this. Okay, so here's my take on it. First of all, you do not have to do what other people do. Just because they tell you to do it, you have to do it. Okay, that's okay. That's number one. That's number one. Number two, look, if you're not seeking to learn more, you won't learn more. You have to do your research. If the FDIC bank, the last time I checked, $250,000 is insured. Now, if I'm wrong on that, then somebody else help me on this. So if I have $17 million, why would I put a whole $17 million in that bank?
Let me ask you
if I have to put it under my bed, I'm better off than putting it in a bank and letting it go belly up. That's what our parents did in those days. But put it in a safe box. Our parents did it.
If it goes under your bed, somebody gonna stick.
No, that's not necessarily. They can. You're right. That's what
do you know how many millionaires who don't play ball end up losing their entire fortune?
But let me ask you this. One thing I'm gonna ask you is this. This is me. If I'm into the league,
I know it's you. Go ahead.
If I'm in the league,
okay.
You want to look at players that's already successful,
right?
And what they're doing. I'm talking about the guys that's been there for 10+ years, because obviously they're doing something right for them to stay there.
That's right.
And obviously they know what they're doing with their money. So you want to ask questions as far as what are you doing. Oftentimes, with some guys will get in there, they think they know everything.
Yeah.
Or if some of them may not know, and they don't have that guidance. So that's one of the things that can be avoided if everybody would actually, or some of the players would talk to some of the veterans, see what they're doing, so they know what to do, what pitfalls not to go into, so they can be better off.
Okay, kicker David Akers made a real good decision, invested some money, ended up being a Ponzi scheme, lost $3 million, all of his fortune. Now, here's the thing.
Okay, go ahead.
All I'm saying is, here's the thing. I don't know of any surefire way to preserve money or invest money that guarantees you either return of or return on that money. I don't know. Money market maybe, but then it doesn't grow. And we're not talking about, and when you don't know when your career is going to end, then you have to put a certain amount of money toward growth. If you diversify your investments, you got to put a certain amount toward growth.
Well, you can do that, but I mean, as I sit here on the set today, and we're talking about this very important subject, I mean, if I had a son right now that was, about to be a first-round draft pick in the NFL, and he's going to play football or basketball, one of the things that I would do as a father is I would be right there to help him make some good decisions, because as a father, I would want him to make out okay. One of the things you can do with your money, you can never go wrong with real estate. Even if the market goes bad. I was in the mortgage industry for 7 years. The market went bad. Okay, if I tell my son to go out and buy 5 properties and just sit on the properties and pay for them and put tenants in there, well, he has income coming in. Okay, even if the market drops and he can't sell it, he still has income coming in every month. So he still can make money based on that. I mean, to me, one of the best pieces of advice, and my wife says this all the time, and I had to throw this in there because I don't want to take the credit for it, but she always says to us about our situation, she said, well, look, we can have $300,000 that we spend every year, but why not live on $70,000?
Right, exactly.
And minimize how much money we utilize every month. And then if you do that, multiply that times 10, so that means we got $150,000 coming in, we got $80,000 a year, multiply that times 7, that's $560,000.
Exactly.
That you can have somewhere else. So, Roland, I believe that you can do some different things, but you have to be committed to wanting to do the best for you. And sometimes the best for you is not what somebody else wants you to do, even with your own money. Sometimes you have to say, I'm not going to take this risk and make this investment to potentially lose. I would rather just put enough money in the bank, don't go over the $250,000 if that is the maximum.
Exactly.
That can be insured, and just let the 1% come in every year. At least you don't lose anything.
Because everybody in the NFL is not losing.
Everybody's not losing.
Somebody is being successful.
Well, look at
It's more
Magic
than two
Johnson.
players.
Do you think Magic Johnson's been successful? How's he doing? Isaiah Thomas. How do these guys do it? As Eugene said, if it means you have to bump your head one time and lose money and then find a prototype that can work for you,
but that's a real good point. I mean, if you don't know the story, Isaiah Thomas and those guys, his group of players invested in a shopping mall. And guess what happened to the shopping mall?
It was a bad investment.
The deal with Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson is that they both are still accruing revenue in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or more because they get paid, they still have star power. So they're still making money. Do they still have the money that they made 30 years ago? I guarantee you they don't.
No, not
but
30 years ago, but they got new money.
They got new money because they're still making money off their star power.
Okay, so why?
That's not going to happen with a lot of guys.
Okay, but it can happen with more guys. And you raise a very good point. Look, the bottom line is this. You have the NFL, you have the NBA, you have the baseball.
Right, exactly.
The bottom line is this. Whatever marketing skills you have for yourself that you can use to enhance yourself while you're playing football to continuously build up more notoriety and build up more star power, you should do that. Right. If you do that, then after basketball, football, or whatever professional sport you play, you can do the same thing that, in particular, a Magic Johnson can do. You know, I mean, yes, he won championships. Yes, he's Magic Johnson. He had the name and all that. But you cannot tell me that people are just giving him an opportunity to make good investments, to be a part of their companies, just because he's Magic Johnson. He has to have some business sense, in order to be able to do it.
No, call it spade a spade. I can tell you. Bottom line is they're doing it because he's Magic Johnson.
Well,
Magic Johnson has an extraordinary charisma that very, very few human beings in the entire world has. Whether he played basketball or whether he went right to Hollywood, he has that it factor. He's got that thing.
Magic has the higher level of it, Roland, but
there's not much of a market out there in television and radio for guys to continue to make that kind of revenue.
Okay, maybe not that kind of revenue.
Isaiah did it in coaching.
He did it in coaching.
There's not many jobs out there.
Right.
You have hundreds of thousands of guys out there who don't have the venue. I don't care how much you market yourself. You don't have that many venues where you can go out there and create a revenue stream for yourself through radio or television or anything else because there's not that many venues out there available.
But Roland, you don't have to have a market.
I'm just saying it is what it is.
Right. And you don't have to have a market to do it. Look, the Roland Grimes Not Just Sports Entertainment Show is doing it right now. No, we're not where we are going to be in the future, but we're getting there. We had to start somewhere, okay, with nothing and make something out of something. So my point is this:
dude, they don't make people like Roland Grimes.
But you know what?
Do you know how? I mean, you're talking about a fullback who's accustomed to running into brick walls, his head swelling up, and he continues to do it over and over again. Man, nobody in their right mind thinks I'm in my right mind.
Okay, so then why don't we do this? Why don't we advocate right now on the show to have the Roland Grimes Institute, which will empower, motivate, teach, and inspire athletes to do the right thing through our teachings. Why don't we do that?
Okay. What's next?
Let's do it.
Okay.
You all are watching. I mean, this makes sense. Because with your wealth of knowledge, Eugene's wealth of knowledge, you guys play football. I'm looking at this from the outside in. I play basketball, but I have a sense of understanding of the game from a business standpoint, also from an athletic standpoint. If these kids out here are not getting in, they're continuously making those mistakes, why is it that nobody, if that is the case, because it could be somebody, are not putting together an institute? I'm not talking about the NFL, what they're teaching the guys. I'm talking about an outside institute where they can come in, they can learn, they can be motivated, they can be empowered.
And I'm not going to overextend it, but anytime there's an outside or external entity that tries to deal with athletes while they're in college or they're in pros, those external outside entities, unless they are sanctioned and endorsed by the NFL, the NBA, or the NCAA, or their college, you don't even have access to players. You just don't have that. I can't go in and just talk to guys and sit down and have a rap session like we're having right now. I was around my college for 20 years, and I couldn't just go into the locker room. You know, we had to set stuff up. Donnie McPherson graduated from Syracuse University. For years wanted to come back and deal with relationship training, Jerome Hall. And they had to wait years and years before finally someone said, hey, we'll let you come in here and do it. Now, a whole lot of teams, a whole lot of players went by, and a bunch of them got into some stuff that they shouldn't have gotten into or would not have gotten into had they had this kind of training or this kind of awareness. But these guys were alums of Syracuse and couldn't get in and do the training. This thing is a lot more of a closed environment than I am able to even express. You talking about, and I just go from football, big time college football and professional football is not open to everybody.
Right.
The information that people receive is information that they are allowed to get. When you're talking about an 18, 19, 20, 21, 23-year-old football player, you don't have a whole lot of time to sit around and read Forbes magazine to figure out what everybody else is doing, because now you have to understand what it is that if you're not trained for that stuff from the crib, it's very difficult to get your mind around it a lot later. You just don't have the capacity unless there's a major overhaul in what you're doing.
But one of the things that you're doing now, although we're not in the universities, although we're not at the professional football teams, we're talking to those rookies, by you having your own show, and we're talking right now, by going viral, we're going to actually hit those types of players that are listening to this show. And they're going to say, you know what, we need to give them a call and have a more in-depth insight, because the information that we have right here is so in-depth and detailed that rookies that are going into the NFL, they need to know.
Exactly. And as opposed to those rookies, first or second year pros losing money on bad investments, why don't you just, we work something out, 10,000 from one, 10,000 from another, let the monies keep rolling up, and we'll give you more than what you're going to get by investing $500,000 and losing all your money. Hell, excuse my French, we are a sure bet.
All right, folks, hey, look here. I hope you enjoyed the dialogue. Roland Grimes, Eugene Helms, Mr. Self-Empowerment, Wilbur Skipper. Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. Closing out this edition. We'll see you again real soon. Thank you.